Hey, what's up, amigos?
What's up, amigos?
And welcome back to the Sancha and Sancho podcast.
Yeah. So today, let's just jump right into this. Like always, to my left, I have the co host of the show.
Cindy.
And like always, I am always going to be here, your Sancho. My name is Anthony. And today, we are going to tell you guys how we got into our first house. So if you are new to this show, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, leave a comment, say, hey, what's up? And let us know that you're there. And like always, make sure you hit that little bell over there to make sure you get notifications every time we drop a new podcast.
That is right. And in case of for those that are actually watching, I am actually wearing one of our new shirts that is available on our site. So you can go to www.sanchaandsanchopodcast.com and
It's probably the best way to support the podcast. So get in there, buy yourself a t-shirt.
that's right. So, just like what you were saying, we're going to be talking about our experience, how we got into our first home.
Yeah. This weekend, you went on a little 3-day seminar thing that was a real estate little thing.
Yes.
So I think that's kind of what inspired this. So kind of brought up the conversation about how we got into our first house together. And ironically enough, we've actually been in that house for 3 years and 14 days.
Wow.
So
Time flies, I feel
time
like.
definitely flies. We've been there a lot longer than I had originally expected. But
hmm
yeah, that's kind of the way that it is. So let's kind of jump right into this and let's kind of break it down into how we got there. So
Yeah.
definitely getting into a house is probably one of the most exciting parts of,
Adulting.
adulting. Yeah, adulting 101.
growing up.
That's what it is. So
Yeah.
it was super exciting, and it definitely wasn't something that we did overnight. Like, this was something that we had planned for a really, really long time.
hmm
Honestly, we probably saved for about a year.
Yeah.
Would you say?
Yeah.
It was a long time.
Yeah.
Like-
it was a process. And I think that's just something that, not a lot of people talk about just because, boom, the next day they post pictures on Instagram or on social media and they got a house, but they don't talk about, the process up to that point.
Yeah, so it's definitely a process. So I would say that first year, I mean, first and foremost, we started talking about like what our plans were and like, like, do we keep renting? Like, is this what we want to do? Like, having an apartment is
Yeah.
nice, but at the same time, like,
And
we had
to kind of just like back it up a little bit though, like, um, we started off with renting. So
yeah.
we rented an apartment and we lived there for, was it like 6 months or so, something like that?
Yeah, it wasn't that we didn't finish the lease.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, to be honest, we did not finish the lease. We actually end up getting a dog.
Yep. Yeah, we bought our boxer, which we still have her.
Yes, and I don't regret it.
Yeah, our little sweetheart, man. So yeah, we ended up getting a boxer, and we didn't tell them. And yeah,
The next thing followed to another, and
you get the little note on the door, and basically we were getting kicked out of the apartment. We got
Yeah.
evicted out of the apartment because we didn't tell them that we had a puppy. So
Right.
in an apartment, there's always a lot of rules. Like, you can't have a puppy unless it's over a year old. It has to be within a certain breed restriction.
They got to
There's
be
like a
spayed.
whole bunch of rules. Like,
Yeah.
it gets ridiculous. And we were young. We were probably
Right.
like
We didn't know any better.
19. Yeah.
Yeah.
We were kids. So we just wanted a dog. We were like, you know what? Like, I think, screw it. I think we can get away with just having a dog. Like,
Yeah.
whatever, man. We'll take care of her. And yeah, that didn't really work out that great. So
But even though like just living in an apartment is an experience because
it was amazing.
I think like you kind of get a little bit of a taste as far as like if that's like your first time moving out and stuff like that to kind of like know how it really feels like to live in the real world, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you got bills to pay, you got
You got to
you know,
feed yourself.
you got to
It's
buy
like-
groceries. Exactly. But I think that's when you start learning really quickly that your privacy and just your freedom within an apartment is very limited. Because I think when you move into an apartment, you kind of create this illusion where
It's
oh my
almost
gosh.
like being on a leash. It's like you're outside, you're walking around, you're pretty free, but like you're on like pretty high restrictions. And I mean, that sounds
Right.
crazy. It's not like we were partying, it was
Right.
just us.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
But yeah, I think that's when you realize though that you can't really like do major renovations in that apartment because you gotta
Yeah,
you
you
kind of
definitely
get
can't do
what you
anything.
get,
Yeah, you can't even
or you
paint.
pay what you get,
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
Yeah. So you can't really necessarily like paint. You can't even like hang up like a TV on the wall. You can't mount a TV. I mean, you can,
I
but you
mean, you're
gotta
not
patch up
supposed
the
to.
holes
Yeah.
and
Even
it's
then, they can still take it out of your deposit. Like,
yeah.
it's a whole bunch of
Yeah, it's a lot of things.
hoops.
And then not only that, you have to like worry about your neighbors. Like let's say if you're on the bottom floor, on the top floor, in the
Yep.
middle, it doesn't matter what area you might be in the
But
apartment.
like our apartment was in a building that was like in the center. Like it was surrounded by all the other apartment buildings. So like groceries, you have to park and walk forever to get to your apartment. And good thing we lived on the bottom floor. If we were on the top floor, I would have hated life.
Yeah, I feel like we would have had maybe a lot of complaints because people complain when you're just walking around in your own home,
I,
you
you got to
know?
work to get to your front door. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's just me being spoiled. Because I guess maybe in the city life, it's probably different, right? Like if you got to like park in the parking garage and go up to the whatever floor or whatever in whatever city.
But either way, though, it doesn't matter. You still have, you can still like hear people, you can
Yeah.
still hear neighbors. But I don't know. That's like a little bit of an experience as far as like what it was like for us living in an apartment complex. And I think, after, you know, being kicked out of the apartment pretty much, it kind of opened our eyes because we're like, oh my gosh, like crap. Now what?
Yeah.
What are we going to do? Where are we going to live?
Yeah. And that definitely screwed us because then we couldn't get an apartment anywhere else.
Right.
So,
Because once you are evicted, you can't rent in another apartment. I think it's up to about 3 years until it's fully off your credit. So it's up to about 3 years
yeah.
until you can actually go out and start reapplying at other apartments.
So then you're screwed. So then it's like, we didn't really have any options. So,
Hmm. But
yeah.
on a side note with that, though, it can be a little bit different if you are looking into single family homes. They do have different restrictions and different rules and stuff like that. So, you know, uh,
Yeah. Like if you're renting like
if you
just a
might be
house.
going through something like that, look into a single family home.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. That would have been awesome if we would have done that instead because we could have probably got like a garage somewhere where we
Hmm.
could have had a dog. It would have been okay.
Right.
Yeah, that definitely probably would have been a smarter route for us. But
Yeah.
yeah, we didn't know. So,
Yeah. And it's always like, it's definitely just always nice to be able to have like your own space.
yep.
You can be loud if you want.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is very nice. And so,
Yeah, after that happened, so we couldn't rent anywhere else. So then we're like, you know what? Screw it. So I hate this. We need to figure out how we're going to, live.
mhm,
So basically for the next year, like we definitely landed on like, you know what? We can't rent. Now it's not even a choice. So we need to get into a house no matter what it takes.
mhm,
It's like, okay, well, the first thing is first. Do you have money saved? No,
right.
not really. Well, how's your credit? Man, credit's not that great. I just got kicked out of an apartment.
It affects your credit.
And little did we know, we still had to pay the lease.
Yes,
Even though we weren't living there,
right.
we still had to we paid the rest of the lease.
Yeah.
So that was kind of a pain in the butt. So,
Yeah.
yeah, even after all that.
And then I think that's when, we didn't really have another option but to go back to our parents,
Yep.
right? And luckily, that's something that we were super fortunate about to be able to actually go back and, you know, get our feet back up pretty much. Um, and so I think that's where things kind of changed for us, knowing that we were not able to qualify for another apartment. Um, you know, I don't know. I feel like that's when our mindset kind of transitioned over to, well, hey, what if we buy a house? Because do we really want to be renting? Because
Right.
because usually rent is always a lot higher than what the mortgage actually might be.
Or similar, right? Similar enough to where, you know what? Like if I'm paying, because we were probably paying $1,100,
Yeah,
we were
yeah, at
paying a
that time.
lot for the apartment.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. So we're like, you know what? Maybe we can get into a house. So first thing, we started working on our credit, started trying to pay down our debt, which takes forever.
Mhm.
And at the same time, trying to save whatever money that we could.
Right. And I
And
think though how we started kind of like following those steps was because we started looking it up, to be quite honest. Like we were
yeah,
just looking it up on Google, like trying to find out exactly like how you even qualify for a house. And of course, like asking like our parents, like, they're in their own house. So it's like if you have somebody that's around you that already has experienced that experience that you're about to experience,
yep.
like they're the best resource as well because, they've been through it. So
No, I love that.
yeah.
Yeah,
But
so we started doing our research.
yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, so we started doing our research and started finding out really, really quick that there is a couple of steps that you have to complete before you can qualify for a house.
Yep. So you have to meet a couple different requirements. So even if it's not really that easy. Obviously, you're trying to get a loan that's a couple
Right.
hundred thousand
Way more
dollars.
money than you
It's
probably actually make.
it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
So basically, the bank has to like feel comfortable with giving you the money. You have to have a reason for it. So the first thing that they were looking for at the time here in Colorado, this was what 3 years ago. So at the time, really all you needed was to make at least $15 an hour,
Mm-hmm.
and you needed to have that work history for at least 2 years,
Yeah.
consistent with
Mm-hmm.
no breaks.
Mm-hmm.
You need to have at
And really quick with that too, um, just as long as it shows about like 2 years of just W-2s
yeah,
is actually the main thing. So it doesn't necessarily have to be that it is being at the same job for 2 years, which that will actually really help you get qualified because they already see your consistency of how much you get paid per
yep,
month or per paycheck. But if you're in the situation where you happen to, switch to a new job or something like that, and you're like, well, crap, now I don't qualify
yeah. I think that's
because
still fine.
yeah, like that is still fine. You just have to have 2 years that is at least matching income from your
Yep,
previous employment.
yep,
Or, of course, that makes you more money. It's
yeah,
always
for
going to be
sure.
nice.
So, and then you have to have at least what, like a 650 credit, I think is what the requirement was. It wasn't that high.
Yeah, I think at the time it was actually it was pretty low. It was like
Yeah,
yeah, like around like 650. It
I
was
would say a
the
650. Yeah,
the qualifying criteria, which is really nice and really helpful, especially, for anybody. Well, for an example, like for us,
yep,
our credit wasn't like the best at
yeah. It
that
was not.
time.
It was horrible.
Yeah, because we got
Yeah.
evicted and stuff. So,
So basically, we
um,
planned it out. So we were like, okay, you know what? So first of all, my credit's not there, and I don't really have any money, and
mhm,
that's another thing too, right? So there's a couple different ways that you get into a loan for a house. So as somebody was in our position like us, who was trying to get into their first house, there's a loan that's called an FHA loan. It's a first time home buyer's loan.
yeah, and that is definitely something that you would have to do research on, but that's
Yeah.
just something that you can definitely take advantage of if it's going to be your first time ever buying a house.
And it made it easy. It made it easy for us.
Hmm.
So I think, and don't quote me, it's like 3 to 5 or 3 to 7% down on the house,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
But there's different rules, like you have to live in the house for a year before you rent it out, stuff like that.
Yeah,
So
which
I
we'll
don't,
go more
yeah,
into detail a little bit later in the podcast. But um, I think for us, though, the moments that we realize that we have to kind of build our credit and try to get to a point where we're able to qualify for a home, right? I think what we did actually at that time was we actually pulled credit cards, I believe, and um, yeah, right. I think
yeah, yeah.
well, yeah,
I
I
think that
believe
is
we
right.
pulled credit cards.
Yeah,
And honestly, that could be the best way to be able to start your um what would you call that?
like your credit journey.
Your credit journey. Because even if it's like a secured credit card,
Yeah,
that's something that can be just helpful. If you have like $200, go to the bank, give them your cash, $200, and they'll give you a line of credit using your $200, which is really nice. But then it still counts it as credit because they give you a credit card, you have like your interest rates and,
Mhm.
all those things. And just as long as you're able to make those payments on time, and that's probably should be a whole nother podcast for that. But definitely is a lot more to it than just, getting a credit card and paying it. But that was one of the things that kind of helped us, you know,
It's
make a step towards
Yeah, it's
buying a
almost starting
house.
like that snowball effect, right? Because that's what I was trying to get to. So we were looking at different ways to get into loans, right? Because there's an FHA loan and there's also like a conventional loan.
Hmm.
Conventional loan, you need like 20% down. So we're like, you know what? Well, frick, we can't. I don't know if saving 20% down is even going to be an option, but you know what? This is going to be our first house, so we just got to shoot for 3 to 5, 3 to 7% down. So you know what? We don't have to save that much money.
Hmm.
So however long it's going to take us to save that much money, well, that's probably how long it's going to take for us to build our credit. So it takes a long time. It's not like a 6 months thing. Unless your credit's already pretty good. Maybe you have some money in the bank or you have a pretty good job, you have the work history, stuff like that. Maybe the situation is different, but if you're starting fresh, like it takes a long time, especially saving. We probably saved like $10,000 each
Yeah.
over the time. And it was probably over a year,
Yeah.
right? Because it
Hmm.
took a long
Yeah. I
time.
mean, it takes a time, it just everything just takes time. I think that's just something that we all just have to kind of realize that anything that
Yeah.
you want to be able to accomplish, especially, buying assets, it's going to take time to be able to save up the money, to be able to be in the position where everything is aligned, your credit, your
Yep.
income, your stability, your mindset,
Yeah.
everything.
Honestly, everything. Yeah. And for us, everything was perfect. Like
Yeah.
the timing was perfect on it. Um, yeah, and it was hard.
Yeah, so I think like the next couple steps was just really making sure that our credit was there. But then as that was in the works, we were trying to save our money.
Yep.
So literally as much money as we were able to save and stash away. Like I'm the type of person where I just have to like literally sometimes I have to pull out cash and just stash it away because I'm like, I cannot see it in my bank account. Otherwise, I'm going to spend it. If that's something that you have to do to, literally erase that
Yeah, whatever it
money
is.
that you actually have. Do that. Take it out of your bank account,
Yeah, we were getting
stash it
pretty
away.
extreme. We had we had like cash in envelopes in our safe.
Yeah.
I do remember that.
Yeah. Yeah. And um it's just so easy to be able to go onto your, bank account on your phone and see how much money that you have like overall and you think that you actually have that money and you go out and spend it on other things like a car or
Yeah.
on things that could be a liability. And I think that's another thing too is that as we were making all this research um and just the experience within like our parents and stuff like that too is just that in the end of the day, you want to get something that will help you out in the future that could potentially give you that money back. So I think real estate, that's one of the main reasons why we're like, okay, yeah, that's right. Like we got to get a house.
It just
Like
started
that's
to
the
make sense.
smartest way.
If you're paying rent, I mean, you're just throwing money into thin air. I mean, it's going nowhere,
Hmm.
right? I mean, if you're renting a house, then you're paying whoever owns the house. You're paying down their mortgage.
And don't get us wrong. Like, renting an apartment can be really convenient for
Yeah.
those that,
There's
you know,
definitely there could be huge pros.
yeah, like maintenance, you don't have to worry about any of that. There
Yep.
might be amenities, a swimming pool,
Yep.
basketball court, you name it. There can be That's what an apartment complex is all about, is to make it convenient for you to live at.
Yep.
Um and so, with buying a house, it's definitely a different story and that's something that we've learned
Oh yeah.
throughout the process, which we'll get into more. But overall, it was just saving that money, working on our credit at the same time, and then it was also realizing, how much money we're actually making at our jobs. And
Yeah.
if it's really worth it to stay
Definitely
at
a big
that
eye
job
opener.
or
Yeah.
to get a raise or make something happen to make that goal into reality.
Yeah. Yeah, I left a commission job so that I can basically start working at like my 2 year goal
Hmm.
to show that I could qualify for a house because the commission was so um, not
Yeah, I
consistent.
mean, it's commission. Everybody that's in sales, we all know that commission is commission. One day you might be making a lot of money, the other day you might not be.
Yeah.
So it kind of
So,
just fluctuates a lot on
and
that, but
that was basically making it harder to qualify for a house.
right, because it was inconsistent.
So yeah, so we just started looking at our options. And we were both looking at like the jobs that we were working at. Like that was perfect.
Hmm.
And yeah, so we literally switched jobs
Yes.
just so that we can qualify for a house.
Hmm. And again, I think the toughest thing is all within your mindset because
Yeah.
you come up with this idea. We're like, oh my gosh, yes, that's it. Let's get a house. Let's do it. And then you start looking into it and you're like, oh my gosh, wait, I don't have any of that right now. And I think that if anything, that's like the challenging part upon your mind because
Yeah, that could be super
you
overwhelming.
want that like the next day. But that's
Yep.
just like how we're naturally programmed that we see this one thing and we want it the next day. And I think patience is definitely a huge key and
Yeah.
time and patience. But yeah, so honestly, we've been working on that for about like 2 years. And then that's when things were coming along, things were coming together. We were able to save about like $10,000 each.
Our credit was building. It was starting to. It was basically there. We knew that we were within reach of what we were trying to do, and we started basically getting pretty damn close. You know,
Mhm.
we're like, you know what? We got a good amount of money. We're hitting that 2 year mark, and our credit is there. So it's
Yeah,
time.
yeah,
Like, what do we do now? So it's the
right.
same thing.
So then now we go back to our
Yep.
research. We're like,
Hop
okay,
back on Google.
now this is serious. Like we're ready. Like
Yep.
we check mark every single thing that is required to even qualify and consider a house, right?
Yep.
But then now it gets exciting because then now you
Now,
get to really
now we got to go
make it
shopping.
happen. And I
Yeah.
think that's one of the most like blissful experience that one can experience because it's just something that you're doing for yourself and you know
It's
all the
big.
hard work and
Yeah.
all the
It
back end
feels
that kind
giant.
of happened to that. Um,
And then for us in particular, we wrote down um
what type of house we were looking for.
what we were looking for. Yeah, what we wanted. We were like, we wanted a corner house, a fenced in backyard. Um, it didn't have to have a garage. If it did, it was cool. If not, whatever.
Right. But most
But
importantly, though,
mhm,
it was deciding how you want to go about going into real estate
yep,
because there is so many opportunities in investing in real estate that with starting with your first decision of what house you end up landing in, what house you end up choosing is a decision that will,
it
how
can
would you
definitely
say?
affect you for sure. It can make a big difference in the path of your life. So for us in particular, I feel like we're
We,
pretty lucky.
yeah. And I think because we had like so much research
Yeah.
that went into it that we kind of narrowed down how we wanted to handle this.
So I mean, even then, this was 3 years ago. So we'd already been together for a very long time,
Hmm.
for like 6 years,
Um,
5, 6 years at the time. Holy cow! So we had already planned it out. So we're like, okay, you know what? If the house, if only one person is qualified for the house, well, it leaves the other person open. So you know what? Like maybe we need to plan this out so that we can plan out our next 5 years, 10 years as far as real estate because real estate takes forever.
hmm.
So we're not getting into this together. Like I feel like how a traditional married couple would do. I guess I
And
don't
then
know.
that's where you have to kind of take a step back and realize, what direction you're wanting to go towards. Where do you see your life in the next 5 years, 10 years from now
Exactly.
to kind of make a decision right now. So for us, it was more so that we always knew that we wanted to invest in real estate, but we just didn't know it was going to happen in this way, I guess.
Yeah.
That we're going to go into an apartment, be evicted, and then now we get to start a real estate adventure. And for me, I knew that real estate was always something that will be reliable and that could always be there as an asset and that would always make you money. Um, and for me, like I grew up where I saw my parents renting homes. So that was already something that I kind of did have in the back of my mind that is a good thing to do, you know, and so with all of those things kind of tied in, it just made us it helped us make a decision to where, okay, I think we're going to do this the right way. If we're going to go into buying the first house, let's make the decision right and figure out exactly what direction we're going to head towards, which is we started into looking at rental properties, right? So, um,
I think at first we were like, you know what, let's buy a duplex. And like we shot high for sure.
yeah,
We were like, you know what,
we're
let's
like,
buy.
let's own an apartment
Yeah,
complex.
we're just gonna do that instead, you know. And I mean, obviously that didn't work. We didn't qualify for that at all, for
yeah.
sure. So, no. So we started looking at rentals or like properties that were closer to the campus or stuff like that. Basically, we didn't want to get into a house that was gonna be like our quote unquote forever home.
Hmm.
So we were like, you know what, this is something that we can get into. Let's move into it and try to rent it as soon as possible and get into another house under your name or under my name. And we'll just flip flop and go back and forth.
Hmm.
Um, so
But
we set on that.
I think that's really important though. Like I feel like we need to really nail down on the loan, and you guys will both be able to qualify for your first time home buyers
Yep.
program. But the thing with that is that you can only use it one time ever in your life. Once you use it
I think it's just one time at a time.
one time at a time,
Yeah. One FHA loan at a time.
right? Which is basically once
Yeah. Well, yeah.
in a
Most
lifetime.
people only buy one house, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right, right. Um, and so that's where it just kind of comes down to, wanting to do it that way, which sometimes, that might be the best decision. That might be the best decision for you and your family to be able to get into a home. And that's the best decision that you can possibly make because now you're pushing yourself. You're actually getting something that will give you a return in the end, whether you decide to sell it
And
or if you want to rent
I
it.
think we're also realizing it's like, we'll buy a forever home. It's like, well, we're still young. Like, I'm not really making that much money right now. So
Mhm.
I'm not like qualifying for the house that I feel like is like a dream house or whatever. So we're definitely starting off small.
Mm-hmm. And if you're in the position where you can make those sacrifices, um, definitely run with it because that's when the most decision, or that's when the most important decision actually happens. So coming back to, what we were just saying is that we made the decision to have one person qualify for the first time home buyers with the attempt of renting it out.
Yep.
So that was one of the decisions that we decided to go about with going into real estate in general. And it was really exciting because I think the moment that we were able to make things happen, literally what we did, the first thing was finding out what realtor we were going to use.
Yep. So we started asking our friends, coworkers, and we ended up finding this one guy that we really, really liked. And we met up with him and kind of, was it like a bar, huh? We met
Yeah.
at like a bar?
Yeah, we met at a bar, at a
Mhm.
brewery
Yep.
actually, and we had a glass of beer.
Yeah.
Um and
Just sat down and talked. Like,
yeah.
just kind of met the guy, like, learned about each other, was like telling us how long he's been doing it, like stuff like that.
And
Like, it
and
was
that
great.
was yeah, and that was a really nice experience because sometimes when you go into something,
It's kind of intimidating.
yeah, it's kind of intimidating, and you almost have a little front. You almost
And
have
we were like kids.
yeah,
So it
yeah.
was like kind of
Like, can we trust
like
him? Can we
like
not?
should we even
I
be
don't
here?
know.
Like, yeah. It was super weird. But honestly, he made it great. So
And that's another thing as well too is if you're young, trying to qualify into real estate and stuff like that, sometimes you feel like you have to act a certain way because you know they might be older, and they're like, you kids are going to try to qualify for a house, which
yeah.
I don't think it's like that all the time.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like if you're that far, you're probably pretty serious.
Yeah. And so, basically, that was pretty nice being able to kind of get to know the realtor.
Hmm. That's
Literally,
actually, now that I think about it, that's not what we did first.
what was the first thing we did?
The first thing we did was we pre-qualified.
Right. Okay. You're right.
Yeah, we made the list. We're like, you know what? We want a house that's on the corner. We want a fenced-in backyard, obviously for the dog that we had, right, Aurora.
Mm-hmm.
We want uh, something close to campus because
And then
basically we're like, you know what, we want something that we can get in and get out as fast as possible and rent it so that
right.
that'll give us the money to basically move into another house.
Yeah. So location definitely was going to be a huge key and a huge factor in
Yep.
this whole process. So,
Boom. We have list in hand. We're ready. We got the money, our credits there. We're like, boom. So now we start going to our banks and we start basically trying to look for people that give out mortgages, and we start to pre-qualify, and we're checking to see what we can qualify for as far as our loan amount, a payment, what the payment's going to look like, as far as like our debt, like all that stuff, our credit, how much money we got saved, everything. So we got pre-qualified. So now we got basically a letter that told us the amount in dollars of what we can be shopping for. So
right.
now we're not just like wasting our time looking for stuff that we can't even afford, right?
Yeah. And that's going to be a huge step. That's going to be like literally the first step you're going to want to take because again, you just don't want to waste anybody's time.
Super important. So we did that first. Okay, so now after we have that, we start asking around. We're like looking for a realtor. We find this guy. We meet him at this brewery. We're vibing. We like this guy. We love it. So now we start shopping, right? We show him our letter. This is what we pre-qualify for. He's like, okay, you kids are serious. So now we start looking at houses. So he takes notes. He takes our letter. He goes in. He comes back with a couple properties.
And really quick, he starts actually asking us like what type of property we're trying to look for. You know, he tries to kind of like feel out like, you know, ideas as far as like what your home looks like. So they'll ask you questions like, okay, well, do you want it to be like one bedroom, a two bed? Obviously, there's not going to be houses with one bedrooms, but that was just an example.
Well, I think there are. Yeah, I'm pretty sure
houses
there are.
with one bedroom.
Oh yeah, heck yeah, just tiny little homes.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, we thought we were proud because we had the list. So we're like, you know what? This is exactly what we want. We know exactly what we're looking for.
Yeah.
This is going to be easy. We're not picky customers. We're like trying to tell them all this stuff, talking ourselves up. And then, so he takes our notes and then.
And most importantly, though, was that we told him from the get-go that this house was going to be to rent it out with the potential of renting out the house. So I think that kind of helped him narrow down exactly like, you know, what type of house to show us exactly.
You definitely want to be very specific, very vocal with your real estate agent. So then he starts coming back with properties. Mind you, we're both working full-time jobs. So he's emailing us, he's sending us messages, like he's calling, we're keeping really good communication, and he's sending us these properties, and we're basically scheduling it with him to go and look at these houses right after work.
Oh yeah.
And this is when it was really fun, but also stressful and like chaotic because all day long at work, you're not thinking about work. You're so excited about buying a house. That's all you're thinking about. You're checking your emails. As soon as you get off of work, you haul butt over to the house or the property that you're trying to meet them at, right? And you walk in, and the first thing you see is they always walk you into the kitchen. The first thing you see,
cookies.
Yeah, if it's a cool house, they got cookies or like music playing, or like they got little the oil essence, you know, fragrance, whatever. It like people are getting crazy, you know. You definitely don't want to have like a dirty house. We saw some crazy clean houses and it was amazing. But the crazy part is you walk in, they walk you into the kitchen, and then you just start seeing this crazy stack of business cards of other real estate agents.
Oh yeah.
And we're like, what is that? Why are there so many business cards? And basically what the stack of business cards was how many different real estate agents had brought their clients to come and look at the house. So it's not just like one or two. No. It's like 10, 15, 20, 20 cards all on the table.
So you just get a little bit nervous because you're like, wait,
oh my God.
What? Like,
so many
is this even
people.
like worth like taking time to even look at? I don't want to get my hopes up.
Oh my gosh.
You know, and that's one of the things, like when you are shopping for a house, it's so exciting, but yet so messed up to your feelings.
Because you get so emotionally attached so fast because every house is amazing. You know, we had that list that we were talking about. We started shopping, and that list went out the window. We were
over our heads What list?
We were just in La La Land like a kid in a candy store. We did not know what we were looking for because every house that we looked at, we loved it no matter what it was. Mind you, we were getting an FHA loan. So FHA was kind of specific. So the house has to be like basically perfect. You
Yeah.
can't have any problems with the roof. They have to have gutters. You can't have any problems with the concrete. Like there's so many things and like different rules that you have to abide by. And we were doing horrible following our list.
Yeah.
Horrible.
Yeah. Like literally we were like throughout like in the beginning we're like, okay, this is exactly what we're gonna look for. But towards the middle we're like, we don't even know what list we were even
Yeah, there was
thinking
no
of.
list. There was no list, basically.
And then that's when we were just getting way too excited about like houses that were just unrealistic for us and
Yep.
for what we wanted our
Luckily.
future to
Oh
hold.
my gosh.
I know. And, that's just something that you just like have to kind of keep in mind when you are in the process of, shopping for a house because you get so excited and emotions are so tied into that.
Just need to relax.
Yeah. Sometimes you need to relax, take a minute and actually realize what is the best option for you.
And if it's meant to be, it's going to happen.
I know.
If it's going to happen, it's going to happen. You can't rush it. You can't force it. So we're shopping, right? And it started getting pretty crazy. Like it got to the point where we started liking some of the houses and we started trying to make some offers.
Mm-hmm.
And this is almost where it was like getting really disappointing. Not only you're walking in, you're looking at these houses with big old stacks of cards, like everybody and their mother and their grandmother's fathers, uncles, brothers are looking at this house. But then you go to make the offer on this house, right? Our real estate agent was telling us all these cool little tricks. Like he told us to write a letter.
Mm-hmm.
Write a letter, put a picture in there, we'll email it to them or we'll send it to them or mail it to the homeowner. Basically trying to sell ourselves to the homeowner as to why
They
should
should sell it
choose
to us.
Exactly. So it's like, you know what? We're offering you $250,000 for your house. But also it's like, we're looking for our dream home and we're looking for a home that we can grow and start our family. And we have our beautiful dog, Aurora, and this is me and my soon to be fiance. Or like you're building it up like this crazy story, right? And then you put some cute pictures in there and then you send it off, right? With your offer. And then you wait a couple days.
And they come back with the news that
Somebody else has offered $30,000 more than you.
Yep.
And they're not choosing you.
Yeah. That's a reality of real estate that, in the end of the day, it's a money game. If someone comes in with a higher bid.
Yeah, I bet that lady didn't even read our letter.
Yeah, they're going to go with the higher bid. So that's just something to kind of keep in mind, when shopping for a house is just.
Don't get too emotionally attached.
Just don't get too emotionally
attached.
attached.
That's probably our best tip for sure. So we made a couple different offers on a couple different houses, and we did the same thing. You're writing the letter, hold out the whole shebang, and honestly, we kept losing like that fight. We weren't getting anything. Nobody was accepting our offer, and basically we just started getting to the point where like, you know what, like maybe we shouldn't be shopping here. Like, you know what, like I can transfer with my job. We know what we qualify for. We still have all the money that we're sitting on. We haven't spent any of it. Well, let's just move. Let's move to a different market. We're going to move to a different market where we can grow, get a house that's like more affordable. Let's do it. Screw it. So literally we started looking ourselves online at other properties in other states. And out of nowhere, our real estate agent, the amazing guy that he is, finds a guy who was selling multiple properties in a neighborhood. This guy owned like 7 rental properties, all in this same neighborhood over by campus. And he goes, hey, I found this guy. He's trying to sell his houses fast, but he doesn't want to put them on the market, which we thought was crazy.
Right.
He's like,
we're like, what?
Do you guys want to come and look at some of these houses? We're like, literally on the verge of being like, dude, I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry to be a tease, but we're not going to buy a house here anymore. But you know what? Like, we're like, you know what? Let's go look at these houses. So we take a trip down over by campus and we start looking at all these houses. And right before we take that trip, we find our freaking list.
The list that we forgot we had.
Yeah. We find the list and we're looking at the list. and we go,
and yeah, and we start like remembering everything that we were initially
looking
trying
for.
to look for.
And luckily, every house that we were bidding on, thank you, whatever it is that stopped us from getting into those, because one, definitely couldn't have afforded any of those houses. They were way too expensive. Way too expensive. Two, didn't meet any of our goals on our list at all. Any of them. Maybe one of them, which makes me still a little bit sad that we didn't get that one. But I'm going to forget about that one.
And
but
actually, funny story with that one though. Should we say the story?
You fell down the stairs during a showing in front of a whole bunch of people, and one of my friends from high school, his freaking lady just ended up being there. It was horrible. It was not a good time.
I saved the cookie that they were giving away for free, though. I will say that.
Yeah, she saved it down the whole flight of stairs. That's all that needs to be said. So we find this list, and when we go out, we're going to go look at all these properties, and basically, we ended up finding a property that we ended up buying. And
again, before we made this decision on buying this house, we were like, no, I don't like it.
Yeah, we hated it.
I was like, no.
I hated it.
And I was like, the house across is a lot better looking.
Yeah.
Why can't that one be for sale instead?
Oh my God.
You know? And but then I think that's where we literally, like, we were not even attached to this house whatsoever.
No.
But it was presented to us, and it was like,
perfect.
This is one of your options.
It literally, the guy that was selling the house, it was crazy because he basically was like, what kind of house are you guys looking for? We were like, a rental. He's like, dude, this house is perfect.
And there was current residents living in it.
Yeah, we literally, when they showed us the house, it was a rental. There was a ton of people living in the house. Oh, that sounds horrible. But there was a bunch of people living in the house.
Yeah.
And
oh
my God,
I know.
We were so blind.
And so one thing after another, you know,
Even
as we're
with
making this conversation with the the owner of the home that's trying to sell it off of the market, and with our realtor, they're trying to convince us, like, this is the house. It's exactly what you're looking for.
Even our real estate agent.
Yeah, we were still like, no.
We didn't like it.
And so we're like,
we went back home.
Yeah.
And basically our real estate agent's like, well, make an offer if you guys want one. If not, then, like, we'll keep looking.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't know that we're like over it. We're like, we're done. I don't want to do this anymore. And
so we left, and honestly, I think it was about a couple of days before we made the final decision, which it wasn't too long though, because, it was still like
quick.
It was still like a quick little turnaround that we had to give. But when we took those like 1 or 2 days to kind of like realize and put everything into perspective, again, we pulled out that list and we're like, oh my gosh, should we go drive by it?
Yeah, let's go look at this house.
Yeah, let's go drive by it. So we go and drive, and we're like trying to get to know the area, the location.
Yeah, it was like yesterday.
Just the home again, and how it looked, and literally, you guys, like, everything that we had put on this list was exactly this house that we have now, that we originally purchased.
Yeah, it seems cheesy, but it's so spot on.
Literally, it was on a corner. It had it was on a great location. Yeah. There was a
fenced-in backyard, like everything.
Rent potential.
2 sheds.
Like, literally every single thing that we can definitely look for as far as a rental property. And
yeah, it was perfect.
I think what helped us make this decision as well was because we were not emotionally attached, because we didn't even want it.
Yeah.
So we weren't emotionally attached, and I think that's where just reality was starting to kick in. We were able to make a rational,
like a good offer.
Yeah, we were able.
You know what? Screw it. Let's just make an offer on it.
Yeah, and it's like, if we don't get it, well, that's all right, because I wasn't in love with it.
It was literally so bad that we didn't make an offer on that one originally. So the guy had 7 different houses. We made an offer on like 3 or 4 of the guy's other houses, and we got shot down on all of them. And that house, the one that we didn't want, the one that we're in right now, basically, was the last house that we kind of like just threw an offer up in the air as like, you know what? This is our Hail Mary. If it doesn't work, we're out. And we threw up the offer, and they took it.
And they accepted it. And
So we're
they're
like,
like,
oh my God, this is happening.
and we're like, oh my gosh, wait.
What
Oh my gosh,
now?
do we really want this
What
house?
now?
Because I feel like we were just doing it just to like
I
do it
know,
because,
yeah.
you
So
know,
a real estate agent is like, wait, you have to get an inspector. So like, okay, cool. Let's relax.
right.
Let's relax. So we get the inspector. The guy goes in, he looks through the whole house. Basically, the only thing that he told us was that the attic needs a little bit more insulation. The roof is old.
We're like, okay. So,
And then, yeah, basically, what else? And that's basically it. Like, it wasn't anything too ridiculous. And we're like, you know what? I think this is something that we can manage.
yeah.
So,
And me, I'm again, I feel like I've mentioned this before on other podcasts, but I'm very like a visual person. So like when I go into something, I always go in open minded. And I feel like you definitely have to because um you know, it's more to it, but you definitely have to just go in open minded. And for me, when I went into this house, I was trying to see the potential in it, even though it didn't look that nice or it wasn't that convincing. Sometimes you gotta take a step back and
yeah.
really see what the potential is on that property.
Well, because we had the idea of like flipping it, fixing it up, and trying to get more money on the rental. So,
In other words, the Burr method. For those of you
yeah.
that know,
If
a
you know,
little
you
bit,
know.
yeah.
If
If
you
you know,
don't,
if you know.
if you don't, look it up. Yeah, this isn't Bigger Pockets. So,
Inspired by.
so we start going through the process. We get the inspection done. We like it. We make the offer. They bait it, and that's it. We do this insane mound of paperwork. Took forever. So many
Like
signatures.
literally a huge stack.
I signed the Bible. I swear, the Bible worth of pages. And
And that was like the exciting moment though. But then at the same time, like it didn't really
weird.
feel like we were getting the house.
because you don't get the keys.
Right. So like you're doing
And-
all of this back work first. You're having to get all the paperwork. You're having to, you know,
Yeah,
because with that, like we still had to provide.
everything. All our
Yeah.
documents, like employment stuff, our
Mhm.
bank statement, like everything, like our debt stuff, all that stuff.
Mhm.
We had to wait. After all this, we still waited like a month.
Yeah. Until
still
we
waited like a month
officially
before we
got
could go in.
keys and was able to actually walk into the house.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a whole month before we were able to actually do that. So in total, I would say that was maybe like a good, like maybe 3-4 months that we were straight looking for homes.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it was probably 3 months.
Yeah.
That's probably about right. So we went FHA. So what that
Mhm.
means, we put 3 to 5% down. So we ended up only putting like $8,000 down,
Mhm.
which was pretty fair that we split that. So it's really, really affordable. And that's basically all we needed because the offer that we put in, we offered um, basically what they were asking for the house, the price that they were asking for the house, but we wanted them to pay for the closing costs. So we ended up not having paid for the closing costs, which ended up saving us a good amount of money. And all we had to do was just pay for the down payment.
Yeah.
So we ended up getting in there pretty slick. So it was just about 7-8 grand, got into the house, but now we have the mortgage payment. But then here comes everything else, right? So we move into the house. It was amazing. It's super exciting.
Yeah, I'll never forget. It was actually June 1st was the first day we got keys, and it was the best amazing feeling ever, especially, you know, going through, you know, walking into the house and having our dog, our boxer Aurora, going in and like literally, like it was like almost like for her. I feel like,
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, that's amazing. That's funny. But I'm like for those of you that are dog moms or dog owners, I'm just well, whatever.
Furry
right?
parents.
They're furry.
Furry parents.
They're furry themselves. I'm just kidding. No, but in the end of the day, it was just one of the incredible feelings ever. Walking into the house, feeling something that you accomplished and work hard for. And
The thing about having an apartment is you don't have to fix anything. Like we've been there for 3 years and I've had to fix the garbage disposal, the sprinkler system like 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
I've had to fix holes in the wall, big patches of drywall,
Mm-hmm.
right? The washing machine broke.
Mm-hmm.
The washer for our clothes broke.
Yeah, everything is all at your expense.
The basement flooded.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of
Like you can't plan for it.
yeah.
Things that you just don't plan for. Like one of our showers was leaking. Like I feel like it's endless. It's always
Mm-hmm.
something. And then the mortgage insurance goes up and you're like, great.
Yeah. But then there's also a lot of perks with that though too, because you could actually paint it, you could rehab it, you can start, making it your actual home, how you would actually visualize it to be. And in the end of the day, it just kind of comes down to making that first step. Whether it doesn't matter what direction you're heading towards, even if you are into real estate investing, it starts with that one step. And if you're wanting to go into rental properties, the best way, the most affordable way, I guess, in other words, is just starting with one house.
Yeah, just get into it. Do your research.
It's one of the hardest things, but once you get into that first house, it'll be a lot easier after that.
Yeah. I think now that once we're in, it's really not that bad. It's just like we're paying rent, basically.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like super straightforward. And I mean, I got to mow the lawn and fix things. But I mean, the freedom's amazing. Like one of the first things that we did was paint. Like, so I don't know. There's definitely pros and cons with everything. I feel like this podcast can go forever. We need to get a real estate agent on.
Yeah. We
Let's do that. We need to get a real estate agent on.
Yes, we do. So any of yous that are interested, hit us up.
Yeah. I think we got a couple guys in mind.
Yeah.
Or gals.
Yeah. Where's the girl power?
Yeah.
Well, it just starts with that one step.
I still think like everything else, you need to have a plan, you need to set some goals and just go from there. Like everything needs a plan. I mean, like it feels really cheesy saying that every podcast, but seriously, man, just have a plan.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what we started off with. It's not easy. It's definitely a process. We got forced into our plan, and that definitely doesn't have to be everybody's situation.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, like if that's something that you're looking to try to do, what are you waiting for?
Exactly. And again, that's why we have the Sancha and Sancho podcast, because we are regular people just wanting to have regular conversations, just truly about life. And that's what our platform is really about, to kind of talk about the things that nobody else talks about.
Yeah.
And
maybe you guys can learn from our mistakes. So
I think that is just a great way to be able to kind of wrap things up here. Again, I just want to thank you guys so much for tuning in and showing us support within our podcast. And there's going to be so many more to look forward to, so many more great knowledge to kind of gain from us or from our guests that we have on.
Yeah, and speaking of support, make sure you head on down to our website and pick up one of our T-shirts that will be thrown up there.
Yes.
And just like always, make sure you like this podcast, hit subscribe, hit the little bell for the notifications to make sure you get notified every time we post a new podcast. Again, thank you, everybody, for whoever's following us and all of the listeners. It means a lot to us. So thank you again. Thanks, amigos. We'll see you again next week. We're out of here. Go buy a house.
Do it.
Yeah, we're out.
All right. Bye, amigos.
Bye, everybody.